Broker Bulletin acknowledges the traditional custodians of all the lands across the country on which we record our podcast and pays its respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome to the Broker Bulletin podcast, where better begins. Join us as we chat with brokers about what's working for them, what drives them, and the real challenges and wins that matter most right now.
Delighted today to be joined by Paul Hixon, one of our chairman's brokers, being one of our long-time leading business owners in the group. Welcome to Success Breeds Success, and thanks for joining us.
No, thank you.
Paul's been a broker since 2011, and he started with us really before then, though. You were here with us right at the beginning and then went to the UK, spent some time there, came back again, and now have been on the journey and really missed a number of different ways you've done that. Beforehand, let's go back to the UK. There's been a lot of talk about UK mortgage broking market share. There's about 90%. There's a lot of talk about how we're similar or different from that. Tell us a bit about when you were in the UK. When did you go back there again? What was it?
I was here from 2008 to mid-2010. Trained under a broker here, Chris Dobby, a long-standing loan market broker. And then family reasons went back to the UK again for 2.5 years and went back into real estate. So originally from a real estate background. The finance guys there that we used to work with in the real estate offices were really, everybody went to the finance guy, like a car yard. It was like literally everybody went to the finance guy. And some of the offices over there are actually owned by big insurance and finance businesses. The front of house, the real estate part, is really just the sort of front door for an insurance and finance business. So it was all referred. Everything was referred. And it's a much slower process. You know, to sell a property in the UK can take 3 months. You've got to build up a long chain of people and you've got to hold the whole chain together.
It's amazing.
Horrendous. It's horrendous. Yeah.
How good would that be if we could make turn Australia into that having finance at the centre of the transaction?
Yeah.
How good would that be? But which we'll get into your journey in a minute in Australia. You were over there as an agent.
Yep.
You managed to bring your family back to Brisbane.
Yep.
When was that? When did you land?
End of 2013, start of 14, so 11 years ago.
So it's been a journey now.
Yep.
Like you've had a couple of different phases in your business. You've looked at different types of structures and things to do it. Let's take us through. Maybe give the listeners just a bit of an overview of that. And we'll jump in.
Coming back to Australia, to come back to being a mortgage broker again, I'm delighted to be in Australia again and starting the journey. Initially, it's just a case of trying to write loans. Whatever leads you can get, you're trying to write a loan. And pretty quickly realised that we need some support to be able to do that. There was other brokers in the group who were using sort of paying per file to get a file done, but I wanted my own dedicated...
In terms of an
administration side, yeah. So 13, 14, it was really sort of $250. You got a file processed from the old piece of paper that you'd filled in to hand it off and get it lodged. As that grew, I wanted my own dedicated person. And so to share the cost of that, really it's a sort of basic scaling of trying to share the cost, teamed up with another really good broker who's a bigger broker in the team, Adam Wallace-Harrison, and we worked together using the same processing staff to grow. So that was sort of 2000 and maybe 14, 15. But again, just sort of one-man bandy sort of stuff. You're just getting leads from agents and trying to process loans and get the deals done.
And what sort of volume are you doing? Because that's always one of the challenges, isn't it? That especially when you're starting, you spend all your time prospecting, then suddenly you get busy, you get clients coming in, you've got to work out how to manage those clients. You've still got to try and work your first to keep the future deal flow coming in. You've got to manage all the processing, then you've got a back book to start worrying about. There's a lot of stuff all happening. Those times you were very successful quickly. How was you managing your life and your rest of your family? Time? People don't talk a lot about the toll that can take. And I've seen so many good brokers get to the stage where they get burnt out.
Yeah.
How'd you feel during all that part?
I think the starting phase for every broker, anybody who's listening who's been on that journey already, is really a case of you're burning time. You're sort of working early in the morning. We had young kids. You're processing loans or catching up with referrals or sitting in a railway office or, whatever we're doing to generate leads, and then home, bedtime for the kids, and then afterwards you're working again. One of the things I've always thought about this is that I always try and look down the line and say, if I want to write $1 billion, can I do it the way I'm doing it now? And you look at it and go, well, no, I can't. So I've got to somehow bring more time into the process. Put more time into the process, you can write more volume. So the original starting space was recruiting more processing staff. So we ended up, Adam and I had 3 processing staff, and then we were starting to write sort of 60s, 70s, that type of number. And then a couple of other brokers.
So 60, 70 million flows a year.
And so then as that grew and expanded out, other brokers joined us, but again, on this sort of contract model that we've spoken about lots, where you're making a little bit, but not really making a lot, and you're trying to coach them and mentor them and bring them through. And so that's sort of 17, 18, 19 type of years. And then I just started to notice we were just stagnating. We did 2 years in 1920 where it's like 76 million, 80 million, like almost the same. And I thought, it's not going anywhere. We're not growing. We've got a lot of opportunity. As an ex-real estate agent, I know how to talk to real estate agents and generate leads from them. But it takes work. Like it always takes work. And it's not something you set up and let go. You have to work at it all the time. But I noticed we were just stagnating. And I thought to myself, well, I've got to change this in a way to make it that somehow we grow again. And when I looked at it, it's actually just process time. Sitting with previous chairmen of loan market, you can see it's just a processing time. You only have so much time in the day, so you need to do less of the deal. And so it's around 1920, as COVID was coming through as well, I started to change my process. Instead of me sitting with a client, it was me and somebody else sitting with a client, because the message was getting like Chinese whispers were getting lost. So I was passing on the deal, but then something I hadn't passed it on right. And then it would take that person more time to get the deal right. So we changed it so that now every time I'm in a meeting, there's another person, a credit person in the meeting with us. And we literally overnight saw the volume change. Now it was COVID as well, but we jumped from 80s to 120 million.
And you had the best interest you to navigate that time. And there was the transition phase for that. There was transition to digital. There was a whole bunch of things.
Living expenses.
Oh
my God.
And that forced change on everyone. And I think there's so many businesses that adapted, business owners that made the changes that have done so well. You made a comment before about you got a view of is what you're doing now, I think, going to get where you want to go, or what's that effect? Yeah. You hit a bit of a slow patch. Just can you go back to that again? Just when you thought that through, what was it? A frustration that was building up inside you? Was it what were you telling yourself?
As we were looking down, if you said at the time we were probably doing, as I was doing, not the group, but I was doing sort of $80 million. What am I going to do to make this to that next level? Well, how am I going to make it 150? There's other people in the group that are writing more. Like, what are we going to do that? So yeah, it's a frustration because you're doing the same thing, but there's also the frustration of, at that time, there was also the frustration of, I kept having to write emails saying, I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get back to you.
Yeah.
And as soon as you sort of say that, keep repeating yourself, going, I'm not delivering the customer service that we believe in.
That's quite a confronting thing for a broker to say, particularly someone who's so passionate about customer service, when you're not delivering the service you really want to, and it's quite stressful, isn't it? I know you get your gut turns, and you start not loving the job because you're always feeling you're on the back foot.
Yeah. And you're just writing to clients saying, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. And so almost every email was starting with it. You sort of go, well, hold on, that must be that we're at capacity.
Yeah.
And the capacity problem is me. I'm the capacity problem in this. So somehow I need to spread that capacity out. The problem was you're the referral source. So everybody's referring to you. So you can't just suddenly go, oh, somebody else in the group's going to call you. They want to speak to you because you're the person that you've had the warm referral to you. So at that point, that's when I looked at it and said, okay, I need just more help. So I do less in the deal. So if you look at the deals from you get a lead to you settle it, when you start, you're doing the whole thing. But you can't continue to do the whole thing. You've got to break it down into chunks and try and get yourself to do less of each part of it.
The time you saved in that, did that mean that you were seeing more clients, or did it mean you were trying to do more referrals, sources at work, or was that a combination?
A bit of both. Yeah, a bit of both. It's happened a couple of times. The first time when I first brought on my first CSM, almost immediately she was saying to me, I've got nothing to do. And it was suddenly
CSM, just for those who
customer service manager, somebody who helps you lodge your loan. She was literally saying, I've got nothing to do. All of a sudden, you're sort of going, oh my God, I've really got to get more business through the front door to keep this person busy.
Did you find that stressful? Like, as you're growing and you're investing in staff, and you obviously got, you got a bank balance, you got cash flow to juggle, you got a whole bunch of other things happening in your life.
Yeah.
I've got too many leads and I'm writing apologies, sorry. Or you haven't got enough leads and you've got all these staff and they're starting to look around and say, I'm paying X number of dollars to out the door, and I've got to get business. Is it a seesaw between being too busy writing deals and not enough referrals, and opposite? Do you find that, or do you find it a consistent problem of one or the other?
I think it's more that if you take your eye off the day-to-day of processing loans, Like the processing of loans becomes a very simple part of your job. Like if you don't know what to do with it, find out and just get on with it. If you want to grow, you have to have capacity. I think it was actually sitting with your dad once and yourself somewhere. And he said, whenever you get to 75% capacity, you've got to employ more people. And it was at that time that I was sitting there going, I'm at 100%. Yeah. My team are at 100%. We're working late. So we are definitely over capacity. We need to put more people in. And literally as we put more people in, the volume just grew. And so you need to put more people in.
Do you live by that 75%? Now, if you've got someone in your head saying, shit, I'm at 65, I'm at 75, how do you try and run capacity now?
I just try to make sure that everybody's got time in their day to get their job done at what we call exceptional customer service. So exceptional customer services to us is you have to talk to the client. Every time you touch the file, it's got to be in with a couple of days at a bank. We've got to be back to the client really quickly. Like we just got to be on the ball all the time. So the customers are like, wow, that was an amazing service. If we are stopping delivering that, then we are heading over capacity.
Okay, we've got a couple of things to unpack here. How do you design exceptional customer service? Like how many in the team today?
Across the group, we've got 20, so it changes almost all the time, to be honest.
It's amazing how quickly you've grown and how big the business is. How do you get that team together? How do you bring them together? How do you create that environment? How do you keep improving your customer service? Is it always good? Is there times when things slacken off and you need to kick the asses? How does that work?
It's all the time. It's constant. You'll put a process in place and we drift off the process because everybody's got their own way of putting together a deal. We drift off the process and we've got to go back to it again and start again and realign ourselves. I think the day-to-day pressures of being a broker or being a credit officer is quite high. So there's definitely times where things fall off, but just bring it back to the customer. Just always bring it back to the customer and what you're trying to deliver to the customer. So it's not about you as a person, it's about the customer at the end of it. And if we can always just try to exceed and aim for exceptional customer service, we'll get there. Everybody wants to do the right thing. They all want to do the right thing. Everybody in the team wants to do the right thing and be the best. We just got to work on delivering that.
Do you lead those discussions with your team? Is it a daily stand-up? Is it a weekly reflection? Is it a monthly process review? Does it always involve you in the business to do that? How do you think about that?
I think as every time we've grown, we have to, as you bring new people in, you get to a level of you've got to do more things in the business to create the same thing. So, we've recently recruited a business manager, Rachel. She's just trying to deliver customer service. She's trying to help everybody get to that level of customer service. But previously, it's down to the individual credit people trying to talk to them individually. So at each point when you grow, you're adding more people in. Yeah. You've just got to keep and maintain the message. Yeah. The process review is probably every 6 months. Yeah. Realistically, for brokers in general across the board, it's every 6 months.
Might be some questions coming out of this on the process side, but we spoke about the one big thing before we catch up. What's your core capability, do you think? Now, obviously, you're a terrific broker. You've done thousands and thousands of deals for clients over the years. What do you think you're really good at?
I think I'm an ex-real estate agent. So as an ex-real estate agent, when an agent brings me into a deal, often it's a rescue. I'm trying to rescue the deal for them. The client wants to buy the property. The vendor wants to sell the property to them. The agent wants it all to go through, and you're coming in to fix that issue. And that's just experience and keeping everybody calm. I think one of the things for us is just keep people calm in this process because it's really the Queensland process, that 30-day contract, is really stressful for people. So we just got to bring an element of calm into it and keep everybody on communicating and making sure everybody's aware. We know straight away if it's a deal.
What do you teach your team about dealing with real estate agents, which is probably, I should point out, you do a lot of financial planners and accountants as well, but are all referral types the same? Do you talk the same way to an agent you do to an accountant or a financial planner?
No, definitely not.
So let's start with, say, an agent. What are you teaching your people about that when you want them to go in and start talking to your referral partners?
When we're talking to agents, we're talking about education. So we're trying to train them about how finance works because they don't have a clue. They literally don't know. They put a 14-day finance clause on a contract. They don't know if that's a realistic. When they first start as agents, they don't know if that's a realistic thing. How does it work? Is there a valuer? So we go in and we start by educating new guys about how finance works and LVRs and risk issues and postcodes and, might be pull some of their properties. So in Brisbane, we've got a few postcodes which over the years have had issues with massive developments in those postcodes and there have been restrictions. So just trying to pick their properties and educate them around their property, what could be an issue coming up for them. And then we obviously got first home buyers and trying to educate them about the first home buyer schemes, and some banks don't do it, some banks do it. Just lots of educational pieces. And then we're always updating them about the economy and giving them things to say. as on a Saturday at an open home, they've got a slow open home and somebody's come through it, if they've got something financy to say because we delivered it to them in the week and they heard it, then they've got something to chat about, and then they think about us, and then they mention a mortgage broker, and then generate the referral.
How important is it for them to be visible in the business, like to actually physically be there? I mean, I know I hear a lot of people sending emails, or see a lot of people sending emails, make phone calls and stuff.
Yeah.
In your view, visibility versus emails 100%. Versus...
You've got to be there. You've got to be there. They overhear you talking. They learn stuff from it. I mean, even to the basics of sometimes you walk into the office and they go, I got a referral I was supposed to send to you. Okay.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time with your team now. How much time do you spend now educating them around that part of as they're coming through and becoming brokers? And your process is to bring a lot of your team through and grow them.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend around that education piece? Is that something that is a constant thing that you talk about in your team?
Yeah, it's just constant for them as well. So we're always sending out the messages. So we text agents, a big group of agents every week, and we're at sales meetings, and we're at auction meetings, or we're at auction events. So we're just there around the agents all the time. So they're hearing you talk to the agents, and just them learning by absorption, as well as sitting down and training them for it.
And you track leads. Is that one of your KPIs? Is leads per week? Is that something that you look at?
100%. Yeah.
So you work hard on that.
Yep.
How is that different, say, from your financial planners, your accountants? What would be the fundamental difference when you're teaching your people when
I think it's probably your conversion rate. Your conversion rate from your financial planners or accountants within a time frame is closer to 80 to 90%. You get a referral from an accountant, you're probably going to be writing the loan. Unless there's a reason they need to stay with their existing lender, you're probably going to be writing a new loan for the client. If it's a referral from an agent, obviously it depends on how well it's been put together, how long the agent's referred them across, whether you can get hold of them on the phone. So there's a hugely different strike rate between the two. We get a pretty good strike rate from our real estate agent referrals because they're pretty well trained and pretty warm to get to us. But financial planning accountants, it's nearly 100%, I'd say.
How different is it when you're building relationships with planners and accountants? How different is that from building relationships with agents?
Financial planners and accountants is generally you go in, you meet the whole team, you can layer into them, you can provide messaging, you can sit or be there. It's a lot easier. Real estate agents has a big turnover. So there's definitely agents come and go.
So there's some long-term relationships you build up.
Which, long-term, they're always there. They always trust you. They always refer. They know you're going to fix it or tell them that it's not going to be fixable. Yeah. And then you've got the new guys. And
do you use case studies much or scenarios that you've done with other clients? Obviously, redacted names and things as examples of what you can do. Is that part of your education process?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the postcodes we're in, especially with like Westpac and St. George and their securities development registers and postcode restrictions in certain postcodes and things like that. Yeah, for sure. Because it's really easy. You don't want the finance to fall over, so just give them to us. We'll sort it out.
We've got one question that's come through that's asking, thinking back to the early days, you start the business as a sole owner broker, and so at what point at settlement point did you start to employ your first employee?
Did you start by yourself? How long did it take to employ someone? I think that's the bolts in it.
Yeah, so when I first started back in 2008, I was an employee under Loan Market with Chris Dobby, and he had a support person that lodged loans for us. Kim, she's absolutely fantastic. And so when I came back, I didn't really know how to lodge a loan through Apply Online, and I really have no idea how to lodge a loan through Apply Online. So, in fact, I did it once a few years ago, and on the Monday, because it was desperate, and on the Monday morning, they deleted the whole thing and started again and redid it. So I don't know how to do that. And so, from the start, when I came back, I paid somebody per file.
Right, okay.
That was an initial, this is going to take me too long. This is not my wheelhouse. My seat on the bus is at the front and I drive. I do not lodge loans. That is not my area of expertise. So I definitely moved on. So then I think it was maybe a year and a half later that we employed a customer service manager, somebody to help lodge loans for us.
The part-time assistant, how much were they doing for you before? They were doing every deal, obviously. And when did it get to the stage where it was actually, how long did it take before you employed your first person full-time?
I'd say probably 6 to 12 months or something like that.
And was that purely like a confidence issue, cash flow thing at the time? Like I'm taking a full-time permanent expense versus the flexibility of the part-time thing? Because I imagine you would have been going from recollection, you went pretty fast, pretty quickly.
We did. Yeah, obviously, I had this skill set because I've been trained by Dobbs, who's been around forever. So when I came back, I just wanted to go hard and get runs on the board and get loans going. There was an expense to it, but there was definitely an element of I could see that I was slowing things down still at that point. Let's
talk about Dobbs just for a minute.
Yeah.
So Chris Dobby, for those who don't know, is a bit of a legend in our organisation. How much is different about from what you learned there in terms of the fundamental sort of dealing with customers, dealing with agents? I mean, obviously technology's changed a bit, but what else, in your view, what is different now versus what you were doing back then?
It's speed. Like the speed back then was so much slower. You know, the first time when I was with Dobbs, we used to have to fax the pieces of paper into the bank and hope that they got all 42 pages, and then they pick up the file. And it was GFC, so we were 21 days for a file to be picked up, and then they said, "Oh, we haven't got all the pages from your fax machine." So it's like, whereas now, Mac or CBA or whatever, they pick you a file up next day and it's approved this, same time. And it was GFC. We were just writing first home buyers. Literally, just everything was first home buyer. The Ray White group that I'm associated with switched to first home buyers. A house didn't sell in 2007 in New Farm for 9 months. Not one house sold. It was all units, and it was all first home buyers. So it was really just refer to Paul, give them first $15,000 to buy your first property, and pieces of paper filled out and scribbled on.
What was probably better then? Like there was less regulation, but the industry grew a lot since that time. So it grew a lot on the back of customers being happy with the service brokers provided. And it's continued to do so. We saw the recent MFAA data coming out, great report they put together recently on the future of mortgage broking and the affirmation that it's the channel of choice for customers. That's come about because brokers over the years have consistently delivered a great level of customer service. And you spoke about that. Really, the first thing you said was that was what you wanted to deliver and what you work on. We were pretty good back then too, weren't we? I mean, it was hard, as you say, faxes and timelines and things, but we did a great job for customers right the way back from the beginning.
Definitely, yeah. And I think the big difference back then was everybody went to their bank. Whereas, it was, and maybe luckily for me, it was GFC and everyone we were dealing with were first home buyers. And they were thinking, well, I don't need to go to the bank. I'll go to that broker guy because we don't have to pay him and he's going to find me the best rate. And so it was a bit easier to get referrals. I think the referrals were easier back then. Whereas now, a lot of the time, people have got their own broker. And if I'm going into a fixer deal, sometimes they're already dealing with another broker. And I don't want to step on somebody's toes.
It's a great point now. We talk a lot about, broker share. It's awesome that broker share is as high as it is, 75% or so. But that now means there's more clients and brokers.
That's 100%.
About, are we doing enough to service that customer? Why should the customer continue to choose me as the broker? Why should they stay with me? And I think that puts now more focus on customer services you spoke about, but also customer acquisition. And how do you think about customer acquisition now, or marketing or leads? Is that the most important thing in your business now? Is how you're finding new customers? I know you're looking after them a lot, but talk to us about finding new ones.
Well, I think there's two bits to finding new ones. There's a lot of brokers who don't write a lot and aren't quick enough at the minute. I'm finding this. We are referred in where people have dealt with brokers before. But I think there's also a bit of it. If you're not constantly in touch with your clients over the years, you can lose them to somebody else. I bought this house 5 years ago. I did have a broker. I don't know who he is. I can't remember. Or I don't think, maybe they retired. I don't know. You get that a bit now. Whereas previously it'd be, oh no, I've never dealt with a broker. I've just gone to the bank. So you're always just dealing with that bank percentage. We were taking percentage off the bank. Now there's a bit of like,
and I think it's hard, some of us, to acknowledge that it is. We are forgettable sometimes. People got busy lives. They don't remember who their broker was, and if we're not constantly in front of them, it's easy to for that name to drop out of mind. Out of sight.
That's right. And I also think that you may have even done a really good job for a client, but then they walked into a bank and the bank said, "I'll give you $4,000 if you want to come and join us." And all of a sudden, you don't know, but they've gone.
That's a really good point. What are the 3 things you do differently and why, if you had your time again?
I don't know if you get to do things differently. When we were growing, we went into the contractor broker part and had contract brokers. But probably couldn't afford to do PAYG at the time. Now we're PAYG brokers, and we're looking at growing the business through an ownership scheme where everybody will own part of the business. I don't know if you could do that again, but you do lose good people as you grow.
Is that because of cash flow that you say that? You couldn't do that at the time? Is that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, running a growing business, I think, and also just knowing more. I think we were just one-man bands for so long, whereas now, people join the industry and they're very quickly multiple teams, multiple brokers, but it just wasn't the way it was back then for within our groups. Yeah. If we had the knowledge, maybe we would have grown more brokers more quickly.
Yeah, I think it's always one of the things is you have to do it faster, but it's hard to, it's easy to sort of, in hindsight, to say things like that.
I think just at different times bringing in more staff, more people, more volume, being aware that you're at capacity.
I met a really good broker this week, and they were saying that, there's a confidence issue that comes with that, you've got a new overhead going into your business. Can I afford to keep this person employed? What happens if my business isn't as good as I think it is and it drops off a bit? I mean, is it still a deep breath now? You're mentioned 22. How do you think about 23, 24, 25? How far ahead are you thinking about recruiting them? Are you still nervous about that now?
I think a bit less nervous about it now because it's one extra person onto 20. It's instead of one extra person onto one. Yeah. So there's definitely a scale involved.
Not doubling,
yeah, that's right. But also there's more and more business out there. The Queensland market's doing very well. And I think you've also got better at recruiting over time. So when you recruit somebody, you really believe that they can actually go and generate their own business.
I'm sure there's going to be a couple of things on recruitment, but just any one or two things you look for in your recruitment when you're recruiting people?
Hunger and just, I think that the customer service piece. I think you've just got to be able to find people who really believe in customer service.
There's a lot of people question, do you have experience from like a bank or being another broker or attitude without experience? Do you have a preference, whether they're experienced or inexperienced, to where they come in?
No, attitude. Yeah, 100%. Attitude is the main thing for us now because we've got a bigger team. We don't have to, training somebody can be absorbed by multiple people. We've got different people in the group who can train. We've got Rachel again will just, take over and share the load amongst everybody else. So it's not just me training one person. Yeah. So it's a lot easier.
You mentioned you had your great CSM came in, things changed.
Yeah.
And with that one, it put you in a different position. How many did you go through? Was that relatively early on the process? Did it?
One. Yeah. And that's actually probably the best change in recruit at the time was there was a CV going around that the corporate staff had this CV, and I read the CV. And I was like, oh my God, how is this person not employed? I've got to have to take on this new person and let go the other person. And I even did a test. I sent them a test of like what would happen in these scenarios. I got pages written back to me, and I was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Right, you're fired. You're hired. You're fired. You're hired. And that was it. Yeah, just a massive uplift.
Yeah,
it really shows that if you've got people in the business who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, they really weigh down the business. And if you get people in the business who really know what they're doing, they take stuff off you. You suddenly go, I've got time on my hands.
Is the HR stuff hard? Was that like as you're coming in and you're building your business and you started, as you said, from nothing, and you put on your first person as a $250 contract per day?
Yeah. Now
you're running 22 and you're going to have a lot more. How do you think about HR? How big a deal is it for you? How much of it's a headache? How much do you think about it?
Oh, HR, I think team culture is really, that's the main thing I want to try and make sure is really good. I'm not sure I'm great at it. I'm definitely not very good at recruiting. So I bring more people in these days to help me with recruiting.
The team
team to help me recruit. But it's about the culture. If somebody's not helping the culture, then we've got a problem.
Do you find that hard?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I've experienced a lot is in that transition from great technical tactician professional to business owner, that issue of having to manage staff, particularly having to give bad news and having to make changes is not it's bloody hard.
It's suddenly like it's not like any children, but you suddenly get a child and you have no idea what to do with it. All of a sudden you've got all these staff and you don't actually know what to do. You're just a broker writing loans, and all of a sudden you've got all these staff and you make mistakes and you want to do the best and try and do the best by them. But you've got to learn stuff as you go along.
Yeah.
And if you're not if your EQ is not very great, like mine isn't.
Well, it's a challenge for all of us, right? And I think the journey, probably one of the things for other business owners out there who are doing that is that, what advice would you give to them that are going, maybe at the more of the early stages of their careers and they're putting some people on? What are some of the things you've learned in that around HR, and what would be different about you now as a manager that was probably then when you were first starting out, if anything?
Well, I think in recruitment, you need to test people. You actually need to test them, specifically about their role. So just work out they can actually do what they say they can do. But then I think I've got a different level of EQ now than I used to have. I used to be sort of just, I write loans and that was it. Now I've got to look after staff and culture and trying to be empathetic and these sort of things. And I think you've got to work out what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Yeah.
And if you can work out what you're good at and not good at, and other people can help you with the bits you're not good at, that's where you'll get a much better team.
That's a great answer. Easy to say, hard to do, right?
Really
hard to really work out what you are good at, and it's probably good to get feedback from people around that and things. But that's a great answer.
A couple of questions on how do you build relationships with real estate agents and other referrers?
I think you mentioned it earlier about the one big thing.
Yeah.
So there's a really good book called The One Big Thing.
Gary Keller, I think it is.
Gary Keller.
Oh, someone Keller.
Yeah. Again, Adam put me onto that one. And it's actually turning your eyes out to the outside of the business. Once you work out that you can write a loan, and you can write a loan quickly and you can write a lot of loans, then you really need to look outside and go, okay, well, if I can easily write a lot of loans, I need to spend a lot of my day looking out to generating leads. So the one big thing is all about what's the thing that you would change in your business that would change your business overall. And for us as brokers, it's leads. And if you turn your mind to actually lead gen every day, you've got to force yourself into situations.
It's a fantastic discipline. I mean, and I think I love the clarity of the book, and I love how you're clear around that's your thing. How do you translate that into day-to-day?
Day-to-day. So we gamify it a little bit. So we create a point system. So if you go and have a coffee with an agent, you score a point. Drop off flyers to an agent, you score a point. So we just have this list of point scoring activities you've got to do. We plan out the week. So when we first started it, we fell a bit into retroactively sort of going, we scored this many points last week, and we're sort of jotting it down. Whereas now we're booking in meetings. So we're booking coffees, we're booking lunches with agents. The week is getting planned out and the diary's getting planned out. So you have all these activities to do. So it's actually set into your diary to do them first. And then you just write a loan in the background afterwards.
I think just to go on that thing about the relationships with agents, I mean, one thing we talk a bit about is a lot of brokers go to agents and say, give me a lead. I think one thing to think about as you're going in is what value can you bring to an agent? What are you doing that is to give first before you ask? And I think that's the main golden rule of prospecting is, can you give something to somebody rather than first thing you do is say, please give me something back. So the question I put to you, to the questioner is what can you give to an agent that can create the feeling of reciprocity in there? So is there a value you can bring? And you mentioned education was a big
100%,
and helping them understand what's going on.
Things to talk about at open homes, and just giving first, fixing deals. Especially if you go into a new agency and a deal is falling over, go in, fix the deal, even if it's with the bank or whoever they're existing dealing with. You don't need to do the deal, just fix the deal. Save the agent his fee. Yeah,
I think if you are the broker on a deal and you know there's an agent attached to it, it's not one of yours, there's no reason why you can't phone the agent up and just introduce yourself and say, look, I'm the broker acting. And just wanted to let you know this is what's going on, and if you need anything, let me know. I think because reaching out, I think particularly post-COVID, we lost a lot of face-to-face skills. I think a lot of us went to remote, which you never get. But I think being able to communicate directly again is pretty important. And I think it's something that a lot of people are getting back to more and more. Just on that, how many of your appointments set of interest are physically with a client versus either on the phone or remote?
We video. Yeah. Like, unless 90%, I'd say, Yeah. Unless somebody wants to specifically come and see us at the office. 90-95%.
Elliot, what other questions have we got there, mate?
But Jonathan just started his business last year. And what's the difference between being at capacity versus taking time to learn a new process that will ultimately get much faster?
That's a great question, mate. First of all, welcome to the industry. If you're new to the industry, or welcome to business ownership. If it's, you say was it a year last year?
Yes.
Okay. So it's been a good year for you. How would you answer that? It's a great question.
Just put the tools down, set the time aside, work out the new process and move on.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. Like, it's not something you'll do once in your business. We change the process on an annual basis, and it could be around staff. It could be that we've got certain staff that are doing some things better. It might be we've upskilled some people and we can pass it down the chain a bit more. But we're doing it all the time. And it is literally just put the tools down, half a day, get your process right, and move on.
Yeah, I mean, it probably depends a bit on the skill that John was talking about, but I think it is you can't afford to not get skilled up, can you? I mean, Things are changing so fast. I think part of that is budgeting your time. And we talk a lot about ideal week. Do you work the ideal week and the time block and stuff? Yeah. We all talk about it. There's still that colour coding of your week. So this is what I want to do. How many appointments do you do a week, by the way?
I think it's about 10 meetings a week if you want to do 100 million in lending. So it's across the brokers. We've got spreads of that. My meetings are agent meetings, like client appointment meetings. Yeah, the diary is allocated.
Yeah.
Half an hour.
Yeah, okay.
To meeting.
I think part of that is actually putting in time in your diary for skill up. I found through making a lot of mistakes that if it's not in the diary, it's not going to happen. And it's got to go in there. And I think part of that is actually allocating time to improve your skills outside of obviously your customer service, which is critical.
I think if you go back to that thing we were talking about before, where you're planning out the week to score points. Yeah. So we're planning out the week to go and meet an agent or have a coffee or whatever it is. If you do it on a Friday, you book in meetings for the week ahead of not clients, but what you want to achieve. Yeah. Then you get the things into your diary.
How often do you review your diary? Yeah, so you do that once a week. You try it as a review for the ahead. Like how far ahead is your diary planning normally?
Because we're trying to point score for the lead gen. I have a meeting Friday morning with Rachel and we book out the week ahead. Like we're trying to book. And if an agent says, I can't do next week, I'll do the week after, then we've booked into the next week. Yeah. We're trying to do, we're going through some open for inspections, we're dropping off cards, or we doing a fruit platter, whatever we're doing. There's things booked out into that week ahead. Yeah. And then the appointments, because appointments are normally, booked in and they're in the next day or something, they're pegged in around the activities.
Got a good one from Rachel. How do you envision the industry changing in the next couple of years? And how is your company preparing for these changes?
Okay, so how the future of the industry, what do we think about it? How are you preparing for it?
Well, one of the things about being with Loanmark is actually the tech that you're driving is definitely helping us with that. I know there's AI is coming more and more. And so, part of being with a really good aggregator is that you're seeing that for us and you're helping us because we're in the trenches doing the day-to-day. How do I see the business change? I just think we'll get quicker. At writing loans with tech. We're getting quicker and quicker as we are. We'll put a deal into a bank within a few hours of getting everything from the and I just think it'll get through another stage where
it's interesting. I think broker share getting to 75%, so I can't go above 100. So we're close to the capping. Can it get to 80? I think definitely. Can it get to 85? Maybe 90, possibly 100. Doubtful. But so we're getting closer to the rising of the industry that creates opportunities for all of us. So the rate of that growth starts to slow. And so part of that now is going to be productivity, how we drive productivity up. And that is through tech. But tech is not the driver of our industry. The broker is. The customer service, the person at the coalface, that's the person that determines where this industry goes to, not the technology. So everyone talks about the tech. Tech's the enabler. I think you're going to have, you're right, brokers will be more productive. Do you think the business will get bigger? Do you see your business growing more over time? Do you feel confident around the value proposition you're bringing to your teams? Do you think there'll be consolidation more with business owners and there'll be less business owners that'll be bigger?
Yeah.
See more business owners?
I think there'll be less business owners and will be bigger because the bigger businesses can just write quicker. Yeah. One of the things that we looked at a couple of years ago, we stagnated again in the sort of 120 million sort of level. And I kept looking at it going, we did 2 years almost within 2% of each of that. And I was like, hold on, this is capacity again. Yeah. And so then we plugged people in behind the credit staff as support staff and we jumped 30%. Yeah. And it's more just because, and part of it's an uplift in volume, but part of it's a shortening in time. Yeah. It's almost like you've pulled some of the year ahead into this year because you've just written it quicker. Yeah. And I think part of anybody that's coming through, wants to grow, you have to invest in staff because it means you will write loans quicker. They just get them settled quicker.
It's a great point because that opportunity cost is not just, it's customer experience. So you're not getting as many referrals back in. You're not able to get as many referrals from existing clients because your service is not as good. You're not able to spend as much time going prospecting.
Yeah.
So it's a front-end lead problem, but it's also like your staff that are there have worked harder. Turnover challenges more. Yeah. The staff are working redlining for more than 8-9 hours a day. They stay more. Some basic stuff, isn't there? But that capacity can be a real challenge.
We've got an issue right now is that one of our guys is away for a month's holiday. We lost a person just at the start of January, and so we're two people down, and the Queensland market's kicked. The team are redlining at the minute. They've got backup of files, which is just terrible timing as opposed to anything else. But it's the same thing.
It's that thing to watch for. So I hope that I'm sure everyone's got a different view. We'd love to hear any more views on that.
Just got a quick one to probably the one off that from LinkedIn from what are the non-negotiables for your teams daily, weekly, and how do you prioritise their wellbeing?
What are the non-negotiables that you have, and how do you prioritise your team's wellbeing? I think that might have been around activity maybe as well. But
non-negotiables, I think if I'm answering the question the right way, non-negotiables are customer service. That's non-negotiable. That is we again, bringing in Rachel into the business manager role is just overviewing and making sure everybody's getting back to everybody. It's not there that they don't want to get back to people. They just might be under the pump and then they're not. Whereas now we're just making sure that everybody is providing exceptional customer service. So that's the non-negotiable. And staff wellbeing, that's again, it's something the business has grown pretty rapidly. And so just trying to make sure that, we've done some work with Steve Sharp and just trying to everybody understand their own pressures internally and what they're dealing with, goal setting, planning out the year ahead, and just making sure the culture's right, that people can reach out if there's an issue.
Yeah, I think that engagement's so important. And you do have a real, part of your value proposition really is your development of your people. You look at how many have got an internal pathway through your business as you get growth. And I think that's one of the exciting things is that team is growing. As the business grows, so is your people. And I think that the capabilities they've got has been really impressive. I think it's great credit to you and your team. Well, so I think we're just about wrapped up there. Any final comments that you want to mention? I haven't said anything.
No, I think it's really just about increasing, keep capacity. Yeah. If you keep capacity in your business, you can deliver really good service. And if you deliver really good service, you're going to need more capacity.
That's a great way to finish. So thank you for joining in and for joining us on Success Breeds Success. Paul Hixon, one of our great brokers in Australia, but based up here in the loan market in New Farm. Great business owner that I think you're very generous about sharing some of your insights. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that, particularly given how busy you are. I hope you got something out of that. And look out for Paul. You'll see him at lots of industry events, but also I'm sure if you want to reach out to him, then please do so. So you can find it online. Okay, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time for Success Breeds Success.
Thanks for tuning in to Broker Bulletin. We would hate for you to miss an episode. Subscribe to Broker Bulletin in your favourite podcast app. Has this episode been helpful? We'd love you to rate and review us. It'll help us deliver content that's useful to you and help others discover us. If you have great ideas for topics worth tackling or have burning questions you'd like addressed on an upcoming episode, reach out. Links in the show notes. See you next time.